All right, everyone, welcome back to Mother Wounds Part 8. My name is Kimrah Minuty. I'm a certified intuitive life coach, Reiki master, and spiritualist. We are continuing the alpha male and other masculine versions of mother wound subtypes on today's video. I want to do a quick shout out to Controversial Shannon for a very informative live that he had last night about the way that alpha males and men who are kind of entrenched in a unhealthy version of the patriarchy are acting. Okay, so one of the first points that he brought up, and which I tend to agree with, is that alpha males hate women. Not only do they hate women, but they see them as the enemy. And that is actually a very common mother wound, because when someone else leaves you, for instance, you and your parents divorce, the father leaves, the mother stays, the anger that you have at the parent that left gets displaced onto the parent who stays. Okay, and so even though the mother stayed and did her part and is attempting to nurture you effectively, because of the displaced anger, you're going to blame the mother for your father leaving. And also let me remind you, this is a very nuanced conversation, right? I'm generalizing. This is a very nuanced conversation because oftentimes, depending on the dynamic of the parent, maybe the mother pushed the father away, maybe the father was a cheater, right? We don't really know what it is, but either way, when parents split up, the way that the child is processing it will then affect and inform their future relationships. Fair enough? Okay, cool. Another thing about alpha males is they're extremely homophobic. Under the patriarchy, the only thing that is allowed is heterosexual normative relationships, meaning men with women, women with men. That's it. That's all. There's nothing left. There's no variation. There's no gray area. There's no room for a little razzle dazzle, right? So when you find someone that is so deeply homophobic, they sometimes have some tendencies that are kind of gay. Even to the point of, like, we hear alpha males talking about how they don't touch or wash their behind because that's considered gay, which is weird because I just thought that was considered filthy and disgusting. But who cares, right? That's how you want to live your life. I can't say nothing to you about that. But I would like to say that if you think washing your behind is gay, there's way more things you need to unpack. One of them being your hygiene. Okay? So now the next thing that is problematic about that as well is being homophobic is one thing, but being homophobic because you have a sliver of homosexuality within you makes for particularly violent and angry individuals. And they tend to take that out on the women partners that they use as a beard to pretend this heteronormative thing. Now, some people within their relationship are able to then be um, a little freer with their partner. Like maybe their partner will recognize, hey, you kind of got some tendencies. And depending on if you have a good partner, that may not bother them. Maybe they will allow you to go do what you need to do to be the person that you are. People have come up with arrangements over time, because this is not the first time in history that men or women have been demonized for being homosexual, right? That's not new shit. So there have been ways that people have found their way around this situation by getting into relationships that mimic the norm so that they can then have their life. And if that's the case for you, if you're being truthful with your partner, that's okay. Where does it become a problem? It becomes a problem when you're a down low guy, because down low guys have shown to be extremely dangerous to their female counterparts. They're just dangerous, right? Again, misplaced anger with no ability to emotionally regulate being projected violently towards the people that are perceived as being the enemy. So in this case, women, femme presenting individuals, trans people, anybody who's not the norm, right? So that adds another level of violence, danger, and disrespect that these people are comfortable living in, right? Um, there's nobody, there's nobody calling these men to task for their behavior. Other men are not going, hey, bro, that's wrong. You can't talk about that. Because if they do talk about it, especially in the online space, they're going to say, oh, you're pandering, you're a simp, man, you got too much sugar in your tank, you're being sassy. All of that is weird. All of that is weird. When you're acting up, someone has to be able to check you. When you're being homophobic, when you're being anti-black, when you're being harmful to other people and children, because oftentimes these people don't realize that they're putting these sentiments out into the world, and they have small children who might fall into these categories, and then by design you're harming that child, because now that child feels like they aren't a good enough human being, they shouldn't be allowed to be who they are. You causing a whole new level and a whole new generation of wounds. Okay. A lot of red pillars and alpha males spend their whole life talking about women, which is creepy as hell. The patriarchy makes it so that your masculinity is commodified by your ability to barter and trade in women. Okay? Because since women are only looked at as an object for gain, for prize, to show off to the other men, like, hey, I got me a good woman, right? But even as they're saying, oh, look at me, I got me a good woman, they're doing that in public, but at home, they're treating that woman like shit. They're not helping around the house. They're not changing diapers. They're not actually being a provider and a protector in the home. Usually they're the problem. Usually they're the abuser. Usually we have a whole bunch of single married moms doing all the work by themselves, while some of them are doing it on 50-50, which is crazy. And some of them are doing it where he pays as much. Now, don't get me wrong. There are positive versions of all of this, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about wounding and trauma and how that can look. So don't get lost in what I'm talking about and start losing it in the comments because not all men. We're not having that conversation over here. We're having a discussion about how mother wounds can look in feminine and masculine individuals based on whatever their background is and what's going on. Okay? Let's see. Oh, yes. This is something I wanted to talk on yesterday, and I'm going to make this my last talking point for this video because we're almost at 8 minutes. So, when you have displaced anger for your mother and you don't have a secure attachment style, meaning that you are unable to feel loved, feel secure, feel heard, then you're going to be hypersexual and attention seeking. Most of the people who are cheating, they're cheating to seek attention. They're not cheating because they can't get what they want at home. Some of them are doing that because they married people who would pass in society, but they don't actually like that person, right? So that's another issue. So, and then the other last thing on the hypersexuality is, it's crazy how their hypersexuality is allowed, but the body count of the woman that they're sleeping with, which is how these ladies got their body count, you're not allowed to have a body count, right? So the cognitive dissonance that is going on is so astronomical that most of us can't break through it. Like, sir, you're gonna have to go to therapy, and you're gonna have to tell the truth about what's going on in your life. You're gonna have to tell the truth about how you feel. You're gonna have to learn how to label your emotions, right? Now, don't get me wrong. Women are not perfect at this at all. We just have a little more practice recognizing our emotions. That doesn't mean that we're able to use them intelligently and not be harmful, okay? So, part 9 coming tomorrow. Later.